up, everyone? It's your boy Soju
and Bob
from the Straight Chillin' Podcast, and today we are doing a new kind of video. We are doing a tier list video. We are going to be ranking every movie in the Conjuring Universe franchise. So this is because the newest film, The Conjuring 3, Devil Made Me Do It, has just been released in theaters and HBO Max. We are going to be covering it on the podcast in depth, but we figured let's see how all of these movies stack up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is the newest film. How many films total, Bob?
Who would have thought 8? We'd be 8 deep. The Waniverse is very deep.
Yeah, 8 films. The Waniverse, the Conjuring Universe, whatever you want to call it. Today, we are going to see how they stack up against each other and how the quality holds up. The rankings that we have here. So, on our top tier, our S tier, we've got Slam Your Eyes Into It. That means it is an essential watch. This is the top tier of the whole list. These are the movies that are the best. Below that, we have, of course, the Hard With Us level. That means these movies, they're not quite the best, but they're pretty close. They are Hard With Us. Next, this is probably, inspired by Bob over here. This is the B level, and that means that you need to buy the blue.
A couple copies of it.
Unopened over here. So this means Rob recommends buy the blue. That's the B tier. C tier, we're kind of going into extra medium levels here. That means they're just kind of meh. Okay.
It's chill. Chill.
This is the chill level, the chillin' level, straight chillin'. It's okay. Not a hard recommend, not, like a avoid or anything, but right there in the middle kind of. Now, next is the D level, and we're saying don't recommend. So at the beginning of each of our podcasts, we say, do you recommend this movie? Do you not? These type of movies, we're saying we probably not going to be recommending these. And at the very bottom, the worst of the worst is our solid 1 star. These are the F levels. Not good. Not good levels. So let's go ahead and start. And let's start from the very beginning and just work our way through this franchise. So, of course, Bob, it all began James Wan, The Conjuring. Bob, what are you feeling for the OG Conjuring?
I think the OG Conjuring is a fantastic movie. Mm-hmm. It's very well directed. James Wan does use jump scares, but as we've mentioned on the podcast several times, he's sort of like mastered the art of the jump scare, the way that he crafts his scares in this movie. It's very carefully done. They don't feel cheap. You can kind of sense that you're about to have a jump scare come, but it still manages to surprise you and builds a lot of tension in the movie. This movie holds up to repeat viewings. It's still scary to me anyways to this day. I think this is an S tier level. Slam your eyeballs into it.
Yeah, I agree. This is the thing that kicked it all off. James Wan coming off of movies like Insidious. But really, this just felt like it was one of those films that was going back to an old style, but kind of refreshing it. And I think it's a contemporary classic. Mm-hmm. I know it's not super new now, but I think it holds up now. And I think this is kind of an essential viewing for horror film or
horror fans. Yeah.
Horror fans. Mm-hmm. And so I agree. I would put it in the slam your eyes into it level. So let's take The Conjuring and let's move it on up to the top. So, first Conjuring film, slam your eyes into it, must watch. Let's move on. Now, Annabelle came out next. Annabelle, the
spinoff.
They have this obsession with this doll, Annabelle, that's spawned its own trilogy. Bob, how are you feeling about Annabelle?
This is, comparatively speaking, a pretty steep drop-off. So this was not directed by James Wan. It was produced by him. It's sort of like a run-of-the-mill, spooky, possessed doll movie. It uses the jump scares similar to to the original movie, but just not in a way that feels earned at all. There's like one elevator scare in this movie, if I recall correctly, that is like really well crafted.
Yeah.
And I dig that, but really outside of that sequence, this movie to me is middle of the road. It doesn't stand out much at all. I'd put this probably in the chillin' category. It's chill.
Yeah, this movie, it has some potential for me. That elevator sequence is a great scene. It also deals with just some kind of underlying uncomfortable things for me. It deals a lot with pregnancy, children being born, cold. So, like, there's some things I like about that makes it disturbing in an underlying kind of manner. But there's not a lot of interesting characters to attach yourself with. It's like a Rosemary's Baby in that sense where you're really feeling for these characters. They feel very kind of bland, and then a lot of the development around the villains, the ghost, the haunting in this is a little stock. You know, it's not super fresh, even though it's only the second film in the franchise. But yeah, I feel like chillin's fair. I'm gonna agree with you on this one. Hopefully, we don't disagree too much on these. We'll have to figure out where we.
Yeah, we'll see. We have not disclosed where we're at to each other yet.
Yeah, so chillin, I think that's fair for Annabelle.
Okay.
Let's jump into The Conjuring 2.
Right.
Bob, I think you're a big fan of The Conjuring 2. Let us know your thoughts on this one first.
Yeah, I know this one is somewhat divisive, but I think it stacks up really well to the first one, maybe slightly below it, but not by much. I think there's still a lot of heart to the main characters. The Warrens are very relatable. The family that they're trying to help in England is very relatable. It's mother, she's trying to protect her kids from this haunted house they're living in. The child actors are really solid. A lot of really solid scares. There's one scare in this movie that gets me every single time. That's the first time you see the ghost. He like is by the TV and like scares a little girl. It gets me every time.
Every time.
Get out of my house. Every time. I know it's coming. It still scares me. I know there's like some people can't stand the scene with Ed Warren playing the fucking Elvis song on the guitar.
Yeah, Randy in particular.
Yeah, it's a little much. The Crooked Man is sort of hit or miss for some people. I think it holds up pretty well. It's a sneaky Christmas movie, which for me I'm all about. I don't know, man. I really, really dig this movie. Even on repeat viewings, it holds up really well for me. I think this one's going to go on the hard with us tier.
Okay. I like this movie a lot too. It does have some problems. I'm one of those people who the Crooked Man doesn't really hold up. Surprisingly, it's not all CGI like I thought. It's an actual actor who's just super skinny guy. So I got to respect that a little bit. I don't have a problem with the Elvis scene. I like movies that have the Warrens in them. Yeah. I'm kind of more partial to those films. I kind of just like those characters and how they're portrayed and their dynamic together. So I am partial to this film too. Surprisingly, it's not as good as the first Conjuring. I agree. It doesn't hold up, and I know people hate it a lot more than that, but I don't. And surprisingly, I'm going to agree as well so far. Nice, So far, this is actually kind of rare form.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, we're going to both put Conjuring 2 in hard with us territory. We both like this one. Thank God Randy's not on. Next up, now this one's going to be interesting. Yeah. This is actually the second Annabelle film, but it's a prequel, Annabelle Creation. Bob, I'm going to start with this one.
Okay, go for it.
This was a sneaky surprise for me. I don't know why. It's only the fourth movie in the franchise, and now you're kind of starting to get into the territory where you're like, what is this film franchise going to be? Because at this point, they start throwing in all of these villains, and even this film has like the Scarecrow and things like that, where you're like, are they going to be spinning off each one of these villains? Is that what we have to look for at every time? Is like, which villain's going to be the next spinoff? However, one thing I like about this one, a lot of the Conjuring movies are set around the same time period, late 60s, early 70s, because they have these characters of the Warrens they have to stick with. This one's a little bit earlier, maybe more around the 50s or even early 60s. I like this one. I think it's pretty surprisingly good. I think, in my opinion, it's the best of the Annabelle trilogy. It is a prequel. I think it's better than the original Annabelle. The story of the little girls who are orphans and going to this home out on a farm. I don't know. I think this one's pretty well crafted, and I think I would put it in the hard with us level as well. What do you think?
Nice. I hadn't seen this since it first came out, but I remember walking out of the movie theater being really pleasantly surprised, especially after not being a real big fan of the first Annabelle movie. This follow-up has a lot of great, horrific sequences. The scarecrow like really stands out in my mind. I love that scene. Usually like origin stories just feel really out of place in forest. Like it feels kind of like a cash grab, but to me this feels like we kind of fucked up that first one. Let us like go back and like try and set the record straight a little bit here, because Annabelle really can be scary, and we'll go show you how real quick. I think they really succeed. I don't know if I'm gonna land with the hard with us tier, but I'm gonna go just below it by the blue.
By the blue.
By the blue. Yeah.
Bob, since we are just 1 point, we can't split the difference.
That's true.
We got a rock, scissors, paper for it.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Rochambeau.
Rock, scissors, paper, shoot. We are going with by the blue on this blue one. That is fair. Okay, so still positive on this one. Next. Woo. None. Bob.
Yeah.
I'll start and say that this movie is doo-doo brown.
It's not the best one in the franchise?
It is certainly not the best one. This movie is terrible. And even for me, from its beginnings of the announcement of we have this character from The Conjuring 2, we're going to spin off and have this whole movie about this villain. Big turn off for me. Yeah. And I thought maybe, they could spin it in an interesting way. Now, one of the positives I had for the movie we just talked about, Annabelle Creation, totally different time period, different kind of setting, which could have been a positive, should have been a positive, and yet this movie's so bad, even those kind of attributes couldn't save it. For me, I think this is the worst film in the franchise. It's terrible. The logic is bad. The scares are bad. Riding the coattails of The Conjuring 2 just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'm going to put this one at the lowest, solid 1 star. Bob, how do you feel?
Yeah, I'm sort of two minds of this movie, because I remember when it started, I was like, hey, they're sort of like nailing the tone. It's still like very creepy and vague, and it's suggesting a lot of stuff. And it's what made the character of the nun really creepy in the Conjuring movies. Like, it's always in the shadows. It's like, in a painting. And the movie starts that way, but then like halfway through just starts like beating you over the head with like full-blown CG nun face. And there's like, you got to get Christ's blood involved to like defeat it. It spirals out of control, and it's just not scary anymore whatsoever. They like completely shit the bed at the end of this movie. Yeah. It's a solid 1 star.
All right. Yeah. We are agreeing on this one. For me, maybe we'll see later on, but I think it is the worst in the franchise. This is F tier, solid 1 star, lowest you can go. Next. Next one was teased as not even being a part of this universe. Yeah. Turns out it was, in a very loose kind of way. The Curse of La Lloronas. I'll let you go. How do you feel about this movie?
This movie is very okay. It's got decent like technical merits. Like there's nothing like, nobody's really shitting the bed on this one. Like they're not necessarily like fumbling scares or like forcing new creepy characters that feel really out of place or anything like that. There's a priest character that sort of is from some of the earlier Conjuring movies, and he's in this movie pretty prominently, and like that's the loose tie going on here. But it's really, at the end of the day, like even if you remove it from the Conjuring franchise, it's just very much like a middle of the road scary movie. It's chill to me. Again, it's not like very offensive, but it's passable. It's okay.
Yeah, I would agree. This is one of the movies that's really trying to ride the coattails of the better movies in this franchise. Yeah. The connection is not necessary. It really just feels like it's to attach itself to sell tickets. I like kind of the ideas behind it. The folklore kind of take on it is maybe a little different than some of the things we've seen in the other franchise. The characters aren't super strong. I don't feel super attached to them. It goes back kind of to the kid realm again, which is where some of the stronger entries are in this.
Yeah.
The Conjuring, the first one, and even Annabelle Creation, things like that. It kind of tries to go back to that, but I agree. It kind of falls a little flat. There's nothing really innovative going on here. So I agree. I put it in the chill level too as well. Yeah, it's fine, but it's not necessary viewing for sure. We got 2 more. Woo!
Annabelle, she's coming home.
Annabelle comes home to drop a deuce.
Drop a deuce.
Annabelle comes home. Oh man, I'll start with this one. This one I feel like is the most divisive in my mind because I feel like a lot of people think it's okay or good. I was very disappointed by this film. And the girl who is in it, I think she did a good job, so I got to give her props. But this movie felt like a huge disappointment for me. It's the 3rd Annabelle film, and a lot of the tease was all of these different monsters. You got the fairy man. There was like a werewolf at one point. The actual devil, I think, shows up. It pretty much is like the plundering of the whole Warren catalog of all these things they kept locked up in their basement area. Except they're in it a little bit, but not really. So that felt kind of cheap to me too. It focuses on the daughter, which is essentially a new character for this. But I thought this movie, for as much potential as they had to go like crazy with all of these different monsters, I thought it was boring. And because of that, it was so disappointing. Now, some of the special effects might be okay. I remember there was a couple of like interesting scenes like the haunted television where the girl looks like back and forth. So there was like some okay ideas, but I don't know. There's something about this film that just really left a bad taste on my mouth. It shouldn't have been as boring as it was to me with all of these monsters that you've, had to throw at it. I want to put it in the don't recommend. I don't know. There's something about this one I just don't like. This is the one that sticks in my craw. Bob, what do you think?
Gotcha. Yeah, I feel kind of similar. Like this movie is like not at the museum, but it's like of the Warrens' house. It's just kind of throwing everything at the wall, and none of it particularly sticks. You're really just kind of like in it to wait and see what haunted object pops alive next. There's not much in the way of plot development going on at all, or character development. It's Annabelle's story, I guess, but she really just like unleashes all of the powers that are hidden within these other objects around her. So like, yeah, Annabelle comes home, but it's like barely an Annabelle specific story, really. I don't know. It's sort of like back to the original Annabelle, where it's just sort of fine. It's not particularly scary or effective. It's just fine. I don't know that I'd like outright put it in don't recommend, though. I think it squeaks into the chill category.
All right, you're on the chill level. Yeah. I think I just have like this weird personal hate for it. Okay. I don't know what it is. Okay. So, all right, we got to do the rock, scissors, papers. We can't break the difference on this one. So, ready?
Shambo.
Rock, scissors.
We're
We're taking it to don't recommend.
Don't recommend.
On Annabelle Comes Home. Ooh. Finally, Bob, the newest film in this franchise just came out 2 days ago from when we're recording this video. This is The Conjuring 3. Devil made me do it.
Devil made me do it.
Or the devil made me do it, I guess. Bob, you're not a fan of that title, are you?
It's the worst title I've heard in a while, I think. Probably that and like, Spiral from the Book of Saw. Those are like neck and neck for like shittiest titles released this year for sure.
That's fair. So, Bob, we watched these not together, or we watched the film not together.
Right.
And I actually don't know your views on it yet. I'll let you kick it off.
Okay.
How are you feeling about Conjuring 3 and the overall universe?
This movie stands out to me specifically in the Conjuring trilogy because it's not like an outright haunted house movie. Like this involves a witch or a master Satanist, as they refer to it in the movie, who's like casting spells and like conjuring demons. So there's a character that was possessed, which causes him to murder somebody, and it's all at the behest of this witch. So it's like there aren't ghosts in a house. It just sort of doesn't really feel much like a Conjuring movie to me because the first two are that. They're haunted house movies. That's what they are at their heart. I understand the Warrens like investigated other cases and stuff like this, but it just feels a little bit out of place amongst the trilogy to me. It's far less scary because of that. Also, this is the first one in the trilogy that's not directed by James Wan. So the few jump scares that they do incorporate in the movie just don't land. They're not earned. They're not very effective to me. So what you're left with is like the heart of the Warrens. You're not really invested in the new characters that they're trying to help necessarily, or at least I wasn't. The heart of the Warrens is still embedded in this movie, and I think that's just primarily because of the quality of the acting that they're bringing to it. It's definitely the worst amongst the Conjuring trilogy, I think. It's passable. I'd probably give it a chill. It's just squeaking into the chill category. I don't know that I'd necessarily recommend it though, but it's chill enough.
You think you're not don't recommend it? Ooh, we haven't even ranked this one yet on the podcast.
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah, I don't know. How do you feel?
Well, I thought this movie was pretty good in some senses. Now, it does suffer in others, like you said, it dips away from the haunted house kind of aspect, and it takes a more almost fantastical approach, which is kind of funny when you think about films that are all based around hauntings. But since they dive into kind of the witch motivations, or she's the one who's driving it, then it does almost feel like it dives into that more fantastical realm. It wasn't as scary, but they had to mix it up, it feels like. Mm-hmm. And so they went this route of more investigation. They're looking into these different cases that are related. And so in that way, it almost reminded me of like a True Detective or something. Yeah. Nowhere near that level of quality, but approaching it from that aspect. And I liked kind of the legal aspect of it too. Like, this is brought to court. And because it's brought to court, they're doing their best to defend it in court. And so that gave it a different kind of take and feel. So it wasn't as scary. It was more about the investigation and looking into things. But I didn't mind that. But I think I'm okay putting it in the chillin' category. I think personally, I think it's the best that we've put in that category. Like, I like it better than the other films there. So maybe I'd even be okay putting it in the By the Blue. But for the sake of, ranking,
chill,
I'm okay putting it in the
I'm down with that
chillin' tier.
Yeah. It is like sort of reminiscent to the original Conjuring because in the first Conjuring there is technically a witch, but the witch is dead, so it's like a ghost witch.
Sure.
And this one, the witch is still alive.
Sure, yeah.
And
they try to tie it up again with Annabelle, again with the priest.
Yeah.
Kind of coming back in. I don't really care about that, but so when we're looking at this whole universe 8 films later, it looks like from our point of view, only 3 are in the top tiers.
Yeah.
Okay? So less than half, which means that we have 5 films in the bottom tier. 3 are pretty meh for us, medium. 2, not doing so good. Annabelle Comes Home, The Nun. Overall, I think this franchise is like just kind of drowning a little bit.
It's all right.
Yeah. It's probably a little oversaturated, a little overdone.
Yeah.
I don't hate it like for existing, but I think they probably are running on fumes at this point.
Yeah.
Probably need to wrap it up soon or step up the quality.
Isn't it crazy that James Wan created 2 franchises that both got sequels that came out this year? One is Part 8 and one is Part 9. A Saw in the Conjuring series, like that dude has got to be bankrolling.
Yeah, but he is not very involved in these franchises to date. So he kicked off, only Saw, and then this one only the first two Conjuring. So that could speak to the quality of these films.
True.
Overall, though, not doing so great on this one. We'll see where this franchise goes in the future. I don't know. We'll see if they continue it or not.
You think Malignant's gonna roll out like 8 sequels in the near future? We'll see.
Trying to get that money. Well, this is our tier list of the Conjuring universe. Let us know what you think of our list.
Yeah.
And maybe give a short list in the comments below. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to get some weekly horror content from the Straight Chillin' Podcast. And until next time, don't forget to keep chillin'.
Bathsheba!